Okay, take two. Let's try this one more time. On the table here, I've got my Enya 64 cycle engine, and yesterday I put out a episode 31 of Engine Talk asking for if people were interested in seeing a disassembly of this engine, reassembly, whatever, all of that good stuff. Many people did, or at least several people did, so I started doing this yesterday. Disassembling, and I had half of it disassembled before I noticed that after I turned my camera to record, it shut off immediately because the battery was dead. So this Canon M50 that I use for 99% of my filming is quite a frustrating thing because it gives me no warning whatsoever when the battery is about to die. So with all that preface said, let's begin the disassembly of this engine. So I love Enya 4-stroke engines. I've had many. I've had the 60 many times. In my current inventory, I've got a 46 4-cycle, which has got set to reverse rotation. I've got now the 60. I've got an Enya 84 cycle that my buddy Harvey gave back to me. I've got the 90 and the 120, the original 120, not the R120. So, with these 60s and maybe the 80, I'm not entirely sure. There are some things that are of note that are interesting. And it's going to start with right under the rocker cover. And there were two head styles made for these engines. Let me do this so that the damn camera doesn't focus on the highest point. Two head styles, and they all revolve around the way the rocker arms are retained. Now, I was surprised because I thought this was one and it wasn't. It was the preferred one. So the two are as follows. Let me take that out. This thing's going to clean up nice because it's pretty dirty looking. Let me go ahead and take this stub off while I'm doing this too. The main differences are in the way the rocker arms are attached and held into the head. And this one, when I first took it apart, I was like, oh cool, it's the good one. Which means that the rocker arm holder here is a metal bracket that is held in place with two screws screwed into the top of the head. And the other one was, I think it was a later version, where these arm pieces here that the rocker arms go into are an integrated cast. They're cast into the head itself. Now, the reason I don't like those is because those were easily broken. And you could easily get one of these things used from eBay, only to come to find out, because they wouldn't take a picture of that, they wouldn't sell it like that. You take your rocker cover off and find out one of these things is broken, and then you're just totally screwed. Either it's broken here just at the threaded portion, or the whole thing is broken out and you got a rocker arm that's not really secured. So that's a bad thing. So I'm going to continue this disassembly, but you saw that I took two screws out. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is, and maybe I could zoom in just a bit more here and hopefully try to keep things in the frame, is that there are set screws within here still. And I'm using a 1.5 millimeter wrench. And you don't have to take these set screws out, but this is actually how you get this pin out to get the rocker arms off. So there should be two set screws in here that actually hold that in place. Now, on the other style head, I believe that those screws weren't there. I believe that they just used the rocker cover screws to go all the way in and provide this retention mechanism. So this is going to come out a lot easier now because I've already done it once. So you just push this shaft out once you relieve those, and I'm not taking them all the way out for several reasons. I'm probably not going to clean this shaft or the rocker arm bracket. So here's the rocker arm retention shaft. It's got a totally flat portion on one side and then this cutout side here for the set screw to go in there. So there's flats for the set screws. One side is, as I said, completely open like that, so you can kind of see when you install it. I don't know if you can see if it's upright or not, or in the right position. Oh, what was I saying now? I'm probably not going to put this in the cleaner because it doesn't need it, so I'm just going to leave those screws in there knowing that they're there, because if you take them out, you just got the chance of losing these really tiny set screws. So in between the rocker arms was this spring that just kind of holds pressure on them and keeps them in place there. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull these push rods out now. Now the push rods in Enya 4-strokes are not, they're symmetrical. They are not tapered like Sato ones. These are very similar to, I think a lot of OS ones are like this too, where it's, it can go either way. There's no orientation. Now this is going to be a 2mm screw head here, right? 2.5. So I'm just taking this bracket off now. And you'll see how I believe that this is a superior design, because you can't ever, you know, break this thing. And because with a 4-stroke engine, obviously if your rocker arms are not secured and they can't be held in place, it's junk. And many people have had to go, and Harvey can attest to this, have had to go and search out new heads for used engines because they were the old style. And it was broke. It was new style, I should say. In the head, these were cast into the head, and they're broken. This is metal and cannot be broken. And I'm pretty sure Harvey probably can correct me. I'm pretty sure that this is the original design and not the later version. Why they would go to casting those arms in place is beyond me. So yesterday when I was doing this for the first time, this screw here was really, really tight. And so that's the other thing, is that bracket completely hides that rear head screw. So this screw was super tight. I mean, I couldn't even break it free with this. So I bailed on breaking that free and just went to all these others. And as soon as I got to this one here, suddenly this screw was loose. So if you get to a point, and I never heated this or oiled or anything, so I was just taking it apart. So if you ever come across a screw in a head maybe that just feels like it's super, super tight and you're in danger of possibly screwing up the head, don't keep forcing it. You can do the other methods. You could heat and oil and do mechanical shock, but the one thing that you can do first is go ahead and just loosen the other ones. And sometimes that's enough to free that one up. Now, if that still doesn't work, then you can, you know, resort to the other 3 methods of loosening up a stuck fastener. So the beautiful thing about getting used engines from people, wherever you get them from, and I think what I want to do here real quick is go ahead and take this intake manifold off again. Now, I took this off and the gasket was torn or got torn. So that's one of the reasons why I went ahead and bought all those gaskets, as shown in the previous video. One of the beautiful things about getting these used engines is you never know how much runtime it's got on it. I've seen Enya engines with the pistons just completely black and obviously have a lot of runtime or just run really rich all the time. But this one it looks kind of dirty on the outside, but it's actually pretty clean. I mean, I did do a dry wipe on this yesterday, but it was a dry wipe, so it didn't really wipe much. So look at that. I mean, so this is telling me that this is a fairly low time engine, which means the ring is fine and it had good compression. So that's all wonderful. The other thing I needed to talk about with this head, so here's what the valves look like under here. Not too bad. I think this will be cleaned up very well in the ultrasonic. I don't believe that I'm going to drop the valves because I just don't know that there's that intake manifold gasket. I don't believe there's a reason for it because they're just not that dirty. Now, if I couldn't see those little slots on the bottom of the valve because they're filled with carbon, I would definitely be cleaning it, but I can see those. So the other reason I don't do that, I don't enjoy removing the valves on Enya 4-stroke engines is because these don't have just those little C-clip retainers like you'll see on Sato and a lot of OS engines. Not all OS engines, but some. They have these more of the more automotive type where it's a split tapered retainer. And even though I've got those beautiful tools from Bill to depress these things and hold them, putting those little tapered half C's or, you know, half C collets in here or retainers is not fun. It's not pleasant. It's difficult. Even with the fact that I don't have to hold all of this stuff and I've got his holder in there, still trying to finagle, because you can't put them both in at the same time. You put one in and you let it do that, and then you take a break and breathe, and then you have to try to finagle that other one in the other side, and it's just not something that's an enjoyable thing. So I don't know that I'm going to be taking the valves out of this engine. Let me go ahead and pop this carburetor off here. I think this is the wrong size. This is 2.5. So let's go ahead and take this carb off. And I believe one of the things I bought, I'm not entirely sure, I'm pretty sure that in the box this had the choke flapper that came with it, and on the bottom of the carb is usually this piece of clear tubing that's the seal, so that when you have the choke you can close it against that and it seals it really good. I think that in my gasket set I might have gotten one of those, and I believe that I haven't looked again to see if there's actually the choke flapper, but that would be the other thing that would make this make this whole. So this may not be something you would know off the top of your head, but this has had this is not the original servo arm or the original throttle arm. This is a thing that I've done many times in the past on this, and it's somebody just used a servo arm to replace the throttle arm, because the throttle arms are just notorious for on these engines being really short. Like you see there's 3 holes on this. A typical Enya throttle arm would take that outer hole and it would be gone. So they're usually really short, sometimes they're kind of hard to get your clevis on, but they break easily. So this is the servo horn replacement thing. So that's not standard on this engine. And the other thing that kind of sucks is that somebody's soldered, brazed, or welded, or some stupid shit, some hex nut thing here to the top of this high-speed needle valve. So I don't particularly care for that either, but there's nothing I can do about that. So the next thing is deciding whether you want to take this timing cover and the gears off first, or you take the front housing off. I'm going to go with the former and just take this off. So on the 60, there's a cover here. So there's a gasket there, and then there's a gasket here. When you're going to rebuild one of these Enyas 4-cycle engines, doesn't matter what size, buy gaskets, because these timing cover gaskets are just notorious for being thin, and they don't last the test of time, and they certainly don't last the test of being disassembled. Like, you know, Sato gaskets, you can use those and reuse them, and because they're thicker and they're a different material, but these are not that. So you will need gaskets anytime you're going to rebuild one of these guys, or work on one, I should say. So, and I've already had that experience with this because I went through all of this yesterday. Oh, the one thing I didn't mention, let me go back to the head here real quick. And this part here is, I was pulling these seals out. I've got pushrod seals. Oh shit, well, I had one and then just flew across the room. Now I gotta go try and figure out how to find that thing, or remember that I saw it fly and go get it afterwards. So I noticed here on this head there's been some damage of some sort. So it almost kind of looks like maybe when somebody was reassembling this, they didn't have the covers in the right spot and they just started torquing down and kind of put some dings in the head. So I take these, if I've got them, like I said, get all new gaskets if you can, if you're going to rebuild one of these things. These are probably not so hard to find out of a Harbor Freight catalog or a Harbor Freight metric or O-ring set, but I think you can see some of the damage there, and I'm probably gonna have to see if I can try and fix some of that with a file or something. But I'll pull these things out, and I may pause the camera or pause the video here for a few minutes so I can go find this one that just went flying. I heard it hit the wall. But when I know I've got seals on hand, the first thing I'll do with O-ring seals is I'll squish them. And if they shatter and fracture and break, then I know obviously they're bad. But if they still feel pliable and supple, like these, I'll reuse them. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna pause this video right now because I really want to see if I can find that O-ring or that seal before I forget. Okay, success. I found it. Yeah, there it is. So that's one of those things where I work in this spare room of my apartment, and it's carpeted. The whole apartment's carpeted. And when something small like that hits the floor, I really have to focus on trying to find it, because the last thing I want to do is be in here vacuuming and then you hear the click, click, click of something that is not just dust being picked up, and you're like, oh shit. That was a screw or a washer, glow plug washer or something. Because then you have to either, if it's super critical, then you have to start going through all that garbage in your vacuum cleaner to try and find it. Okay, so the next fun part is after you've got your screws off of here, is trying to get this thing off. This is never easy. I have yet to have too many, if any, that I can recall, that just, oh, it just comes right off. It's loose. I can see a gap. But because there's two timing gears or cam gears here and a bearing, that's a lot of mechanical resistance that's holding this in place. Now I haven't heated this up obviously because I'm holding it with my bare hands. Now Chris from Perky Plains RC sent me some guitar picks, and I've only got the one here now to help me with things like this. But as you can see, this pick is too thin or too thick. So that's why I'll typically go to the more dangerous method and use razor blades to at least try to start getting this off. What I'm probably going to have to do is turn the camera off and go try to drizzle oil in there somehow. Maybe just kind of open it up like this I'm doing here and try to get flood that with oil and see if I can kind of start to loosen it up, and then heat it up, because this is just one of those things where I just kind of try and work it, and it's really going to be necessary. Because the other thing that I could attempt, if you have a means to do it, and so let me segue here real quick. The tappets in here cannot just be magnetically pulled out like you can on some engines. Never had it happen, because this area of the engine is historically always just really gunked up, and those things seldom, and there's such a tight tolerance, those things seldom, if ever, even on a new engine, will just pull right out with a magnet under the most ideal situations. So it's not like I can get anything in there to help me with leverage at all. I mean, I really can't. So it just sucks. So I'm probably going to just start getting some 3-in-1 oil here and kind of start flooding this around the side and here. Anywhere that I think liquid will go, and probably just start heating this thing up. Because I was hoping that if there was a means to hold this thing, maybe there is. If there's a means to hold this, then maybe you could put a punch on one of the ends of one of these, because that is the end of the rotating portion of the timing gears right there, right here. So if you could hold that thing and push, tap this thing down, it might be another means to do that. But I've never actually tried that, because I've never had a means to just dangle this through a vise or something, or hold this with soft jawed pliers or something and just tap down on that. I just don't have a fixturing way to do that, but that is a way. And you certainly don't want to just go yanking on this thing, because you break that carb mount off, then you're totally hosed. So I'm going to shut the video off here for a few seconds and go heat this thing up and see if I can get this off. I just want to go through the process for trying to get this off, and I'll come back once I've got this thing off and we'll finish up. Basically the rest of the disassembly is just going to be removing the front housing, and I'm trying to think now if removing the front housing now is going to aid me in any way, shape, or form in getting this off. So let me think about this for a second. Is it possible? I'll take the crankshaft out and take the piston out. Does that give me access to anything? Because there's a bearing still there, and I don't know if there's anything that I can push this way against that will actually assist in getting this off, because I would like to have a better means of getting these things off. And this is really dangerous, because if you slip using these razor blades, it's not fun. So here's the other thing, is here's a little bit of a lever point. If you had something really thin, you can kind of get in here, but right now I've got my razor blades in there. So if I can stick another one down here, maybe I can kind of try to find something that's strong enough thin enough to get in here and kind of lever this thing off a little bit like this. But this might also help a little bit more once I get this heated up. But so the bottom line is, removing the timing cover is never pleasant, and it's never super easy unless you're opening up a brand new engine for the first time. So I'm going to go and apply some heat to this, a lot of heat, and get this off. Okay, so I thought I'd turn the video back on here. You can see I've got some of these guitar picks out from Chris, and I've heated this thing up, and I've got it so that I've got this little screwdriver in here, and you can see the gap I'm starting to get, and I'm just kind of doing, very gently, just kind of doing this wiggle thing. And that's really kind of what you have to do. You just kind of have to, it's still pretty damn warm. It just takes patience. You really just have to be patient with this process and know that it will work. It will come off eventually. So I'm going to just flood this crack with more of this penetrating oil, 3-in-1, and go heat it up some more. This will work eventually. It's just, it takes patience. You can't expect that this is just going to happen, because if you get in a hurry, you're going to either break a tool, you're going to break something on the engine. But this is the only way I'm aware of that you can get it off. Now ideally I'd like to be able to get something under here that's thinner and stouter. I mean, these guitar picks are just simply not, they're not long enough, and they're not stout enough. See, it's going to break off in there. They're just not the good enough material to be able to do this. So I'm just going to go and keep heating this again and just do this, because eventually it'll just work its way off. It's kind of like those cam covers on, stubborn cam covers on some OS engines. You just have to do this type of thing where you just kind of wiggle it around enough, because you got 3 points of contact here. You got these 2 cam gears and a bearing that are all adhered, and they're down low, so they're down at this low end here. So that's where you really need to get something up under there. Now if I had a piece of like carbon steel that was super thin, I could get in there and kind of help with that, but I don't. And I don't even know if I've got a piece of brass and just going to bend right away too. So I mean, oh, wait a minute, I've got this steel rule, and I don't want to screw up my steel rule, but it's thin enough. And now I'm just kind of putting a twisting force on there, hoping that this steel rule is just, maybe if I work together with the steel rule and this screwdriver, I can kind of keep doing this. I think what I need to do though is just, I need to just go and heat this up some more, because it's coming. It's it's a process, and it's not a process that can really be rushed. Okay, so all total, this has probably taken me about 10 minutes or so, and I finally got it to the point where it can be taken off. However, it's really hot. This part, I was only heating up this area, so this portion of the engine isn't. I could get this drive hub to go back on here. Oh, hell with it, I'll just take it all off. That way it's... Okay, well, it just came off. I was hoping to have a little more dramatic thing there, but now this nut is stuck on there. So anyway, so here we go. That's freaking hot. Here's our timing gears. And the other thing I forgot to mention is you also have a gasket. I mentioned that there's a gasket on there, but you got these 3 points of contact plus the gasket, all fighting against removal. So the other thing now with this is, oh, you're like, oh, great, this is wonderful, and you can pull these things out, not a problem. Go ahead and pull them out. Just make sure you know which one is which. The intake side is the gear that sits most flush with the case, and the... Oh, I'm sorry. The intake side is the gear that where you can see the teeth. The other, the exhaust one, is the teeth are recessed in there, but you can't mess up these shafts. I mean, you could theoretically reverse them, and that would not be good. But these things, know that you're going to have to clean these things heavily, because the little mark timing dot on them, you can kind of try to go by the lobes, because there's plenty of information out there on my Google Drive. I've got all kinds of manuals that show the timings of the 46, 60, 80, 53, all of those engines. So it's not hard to find, but the timing is not the same for all the engines. Sometimes the lobes are facing this way, and sometimes they're facing up. So you have to go by the timing mark. But once you see the lobe orientation, you can kind of go by that, but the teeth are pretty fine, so you better really know where the dot is. And sometimes you really have to clean the crap out of that thing and then use magnifiers to find the dot. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull these gears out, and hopefully they're not too hot to show you. So I pull them out that way. So it was like this, I believe. So I reverse them. This is the exhaust, and this is the intake. And you can see easily how they go, because the cam lobes have to line up. Obviously, you can't do it this way. So, and this was the one that was recessed in there. So anyway, not a big deal. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you these timing dots or not. I can get this way up here, and you can see how dark it is. And I think maybe, I don't know, I'm looking at the viewfinder and the LCD screen. I can't see the dot. I will always clean the living crap out of that so I can see where the dot is, and make sure the dot's either right on a tooth or in between, because then you've got timing marks on this shaft here. You've got two scribe marks that will line up with the corresponding dots, and that thing is still really warm, and I don't understand why this nut is not wanting to come off of here. There we go. Wow, that thing is getting hot. I mean, the heat is transferring all the way here to the front of the case now. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can show you here, because I'm going to be making a Boca bearing video. So I have been in the past doing a lot of the final disassembly on those videos. So here's that one bearing, and you're like, how in the hell do you get that bearing out? And it's like, I know how to do it now. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill. Because Bill's tool, cam gear removal tool, will actually fit in there and pull this tool out, or pull this gear out, or that bearing out also. So it only works, his current tool is only big enough, or small enough I should say, to work on the 46, 60, and 80. You get up to the 90 and 120 size engines, and the bearing is a little bit larger, the ID is larger, and it won't work. And I'm pretty darn sure that this one will work. I don't have the tool out here, and I'm not going to do it right now anyway. So now I can pop these cam followers out. So there's our cam followers, timing cover. put all that in there. And I probably could go ahead. So this front bearing also has this C-clip, retaining clip in there to hold it in place. So you have to have some, you know, round nose pliers or C-clip removal pliers to get that out. I know this has probably been a long video, and I don't know if I'm going to break it into several shorter ones or not. If you're really interested in watching this, then I guess you stick through it and watch the entire video. Trying to think if there's any real reason for me to go ahead and take this front housing off right now. I mean, there's really not a whole lot there besides a gasket that's not going to survive. And this thing is really, it really transferred all of that heat that I was shooting on the rear end of this thing. It transferred it all to the front of the engine, because I was holding this part with the glove and I was not allowing heat to hit that, but all of that heat really did transfer to the front. I think it's funny that this front housing looks a lot cleaner than the rest of the engine. That thing is still rather warm. This might require a little tap. I don't know if that's gonna... Yeah, there we go. And there we have it. So here you see this rear bearing is fully inside this. This is not the bearing, outer bearing. That is a cast part. So that bearing resides completely within here. Actually, you can hear them, but they don't feel too bad, really. Where's that gasket at? The gasket looks like it kind of parted ways, and half of it's here and half of it's here, so that's going to require a nice little cleanup task there. So let's pull this. So if you can look in here and you see that connecting rod, and it's got an F on it, that means front or forward. So there's your orientation for your connecting rod. Let's just pull this thing out real quick, and there, pop goes the weasel, and there you go. Not a bad looking piston. It's got those tangs, it's those little C-clip tangs, retainers. And if you remember my Super Tiger video where I was asked to investigate the orientation of those, look at this. That is horizontal. That one is horizontal. Now, is it possible for me just to rotate those? I don't really want to take that out. And hell, I don't even know if that plier jaw is closing enough to grab that. I don't want to take those out. At least not at this time, if ever. And also you can see how there's very little room between the top of the connecting rod and the inside of the piston, so there's no movement at all. It's very thick. The piston, underneath the piston, is very thick there. So anyway, that is it for the disassembly of this engine, and all the rest of this is going to take place probably on the Boca bearing video. I mean, I could theoretically go ahead and pop this guy out, I suppose. So this timing shaft just gets pushed out. Like that. Or, oh shit, and the bearing came out on it. That's never a good thing. So I'm going to pop that back in there, and that's going to be a part of my Boca video. And that's going to be fun to try to get that off. And I'm not entirely sure how to do that at this moment, but that's part of the fun. So this is some of the reasons why these engines, I charge a little bit more to clean these up, because and disassemble, because there's so much more involved. I don't know why that feels so rough now. Felt really tight in there. Let me get my magnet here. Right in the center. Line that thing up. Oh, that's why it was rough, because the bearing is actually not in there anymore. I'm going to have to reseat that bearing completely. So anyway, that ends the disassembly of this Enya 64 cycle engine.